Welcome to the Marketing Your Role-Playing Games and Products panel. We are presenting this panel on behalf of the Australian roleplay community for the Games Week at the Table event. Firstly, I want to thank everyone who is currently watching on Twitch and anyone who is watching later on YouTube. Now, before we dive into the questions, I would love to introduce our fabulous panel members. I have invited these fine folks because of their interesting or unique work they do in the ways of marketing their TTRPGs or TTRPG products. Now, firstly, Scarlett Song. Scarlett is a professional game master, illustrator, and cozy RPG dev. You might know her for her cozy cottagecore Critters RPG. She is also a Crit Award nominated GM for Best Setting Description. Say hello, Scarlett.
Yo.
Next up, we have the delightful Hugh Lashbrooke. Hugh is the founder and sole operator of 10 Acre Games, an independent tabletop game studio known for building immersive worlds, entertaining games, exciting adventures, and creative modules. All the work published by 10 Acre Games is family-friendly, providing wholesome fun for all ages. Welcome to the panel, Hugh.
Hello.
And finally, we have the Ravens of Ravens Ridge Emporium, Jesse Lee and Brandon Lee. They've been making dice, RPG props, and role-playing games for over 4 years now, and have a fairly formidable and impressive social media presence. Welcome, Jesse and Brandon. It's great to have you here.
Hello, thank you.
Hello.
Now, marketing. You either love it or you hate it, but what is it? What tips and tricks does this creative bunch have to make marketing your role-playing games and all role-playing accessories easier? Let's dive in and find out. Now, gang, I have assembled you all here because I think overall you provide a wide array of different ways to market yourselves and products in the TTRPG space. But before we dive into the details of how and why, I would love to get your perspectives on what does the word marketing mean to you and what does it look like in your business. I'm going to throw it over to Scarlett first to answer this one.
Thank you for the bus. It's my favorite thing. For me, marketing is about appeal and sort of creating a mutual understanding, if that makes sense. Like, if you understand that this thing that I or anybody else is wanting you to like try out or do is for you, it's like creating like a mutually shared view and perspective, at least for me. And especially in my particular area of how I like to market, I'm also inviting you into like a world that I'm hoping that you'll join in, especially in an RPG space. But that's for me.
Amazing. I'd like to open it up to Hugh. What is your definition of marketing? What does it look like in 10 Acre Games?
That's obviously a very broad thing, but for me, particularly because of my kind of professional history and everything I'm involved in, community is a really important part of it, and kind of building something that a community of people would be interested in and would actually want to use is, for me, that's sort of like the base of it, like building something that people in a particular community are interested in and want to use, and sort of working within that community to bring it for them. So that's what I'm sure we'll talk about all this a bit later, but that's something I've tried very hard to do from the start when I've started producing content, and working like within the community and making it relevant and useful for people.
Amazing. So two different takes on marketing, but somewhat aligned in like the invitation and the community building, definitely. Okay, Ravens, Jesse and Brandon, what's your definition of marketing and what does it look like at Ravens Ridge Emporium?
I can go first. I was going to say community as well. I think it's very important to understand what the people you're engaging with are after, and you in turn understand them. We are a small business, so I'm really big about supporting other small businesses. And I feel like marketing is about, building a connection with people and finding friends along the way. I've met so many amazing people purely through marketing, being like, hey, do you think you'd like our stuff? And then be like, we're friends now.
So true, though.
Amazing. Brandon, did you have anything you would like to expand upon Jesse's definition?
I don't think so. Well said, Jesse. Yeah, I think that encapsulates sort of what we're about marketing-wise here.
Fantastic. That's really good to get all of your different takes and to see that there is quite a lot of overlap in what you define as marketing. And I think making it slightly less scary by focusing in on shared interests and shared value and community. My first direct question is going to be to you, Scarlett. Now, I personally have been in awe of all of the hype around cottagecore critters. In fact, I think your launch was incredibly phenomenal. It included things like podcast appearances, convention appearances. So, for example, running cottagecore critters at Conquest and Tabletop Open Day, and I think you were even at a furry convention. Can you talk about the role of going out and interacting directly with the community on the ground? What role you think that had in the success of cottagecore critters, and is there anything you would do differently next time?
All right, so there's sort of two layers to this. For me, creating, especially coming from both the professional game master side of things and then saying, hey, this original thing, play, is, I feel like I'm best in person. For me, it's because the community, as we were all mentioning earlier, the community is there at these physical appearances. Like, I can hope that you play this sort of thing and cottagecore critters at home, and I can hope that like you pick it up randomly off a shelf one day, fingers crossed, but that without you seeing it and without you being in a space that firstly is familiar, that you as a person kind of go into and go, hey, this thing is a welcome thing within this community because it's here, right? It's a thing that is physically appealing there. And talking to people about it, I think, is super important because you get to know people, you get to see what they like, you get to find like pain points you might be solving, because pain points is a lot of marketing and stuff as well as like discovering what you need in that space that may or may not exist or doesn't exist in the way that you would present it. So that was one big part. Demonstrating the system as well, like especially with RPGs, people really prefer to be taught that sort of thing. Like they prefer to see it in action. And so like podcast appearances, I did a panel at Melbourne FurCon as well to demonstrate the system, just so people would have an idea of this is more than just a book that you then have to read, because these days especially people don't like reading as much. I'm an English tutor and teacher as well, for context, and I definitely understand that part. But another part of it was creating visually the sort of world that Cottagecore Critters would be a game that you'd be entering into as well. So one of the things that I get a lot of comments on is especially my visual representation. So I really like to provide like a space where it feels like you are going to be in this area. Like it stops that gap of this is what I visualize the world to be versus what you visualize the world to be. So both the art and like the marketing in terms of like physical display and setup was really important to me, because it meant that anybody who may be new to the game, or specifically new to RPGs, because that was one of my target markets, specifically people who are trying for the first time and wanting something new, or a little bit less epic fantasy, would feel comfortable as well, like making that cozy space so they knew that they were welcome and also welcome to discuss it with me. As for what I do differently, oh boy, how does one use a camera for social media? Because I sure as heck don't have the time to edit. I do a lot of stuff outside of this, and my goodness, if I could do anything differently, I would have. There's a huge notebook of things that I'd love to do for the social media aspect of that physical marketing. So I would have loved to be able to say, for example, at Conquest Market that has just been and gone, set up like a little prop and like physical like pose and picture display for Cottagecore Critters, so you physically feel like you're in the world of the place that like I'm trying to invite you into, with all of your cute little
like
friends.
a cardboard cutout of like some of the characters.
Photo op, let's go.
Yeah,
I love
amazing.
those.
Yeah, that would have been so cool. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
idea.
I would have loved to be able to do that. As it stood, just being in the space and like the space itself, and because I was running a table, that was kind of the extent of what I could do on my limited time. So in terms of physical presence, that's what I would do. And then I've got like a huge mental and like notebook, really, really awful handwriting, checklist of like things that I'd love to be able to put out social media wise, especially in promotion leading up to events as well. So that's something that I'd like to definitely work on, but I think it's going to take me either dropping some work or finding someone to help me, which will be an eventually thing. For now.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's
worries.
really great to hear about the success you've had with that physical marketing and some ideas you've got going forward. Hugh, you are a very busy man. You have a family, a day job, and yet you are still an incredibly prolific person in the TTRPG space. One thing I'm eager to hear more about is the ways in which you connect and leverage community creation. I'm specifically thinking about your templates for people creating their own TTRPGs, as well as how often you participate in and run game jams. I know you also have Tiny Tales, which is where you publish a monthly piece of content for Mouse Ritter with Matthew Morris. There's a lot going on there, and I want to know a little bit about how did you build 10 Acre Games to create such a wide marketing ecosystem that has many ties to different parts of the TTRPG community?
Good question. Interestingly, you mentioned things about game jams and templates and stuff. We spoke about this a little bit before, and you kind of had to convince me that is kind of part of marketing, because I was just like, it's just a thing I do that I enjoy. And like I built something and it worked, and I've got a template that I made that I sort of use for my stuff, and may as well make that available for other people, and people find it useful, which is great. If they don't find it useful, that's also fine, because I'm using it anyway. But that does tie into marketing quite well. I've just never really considered it that until we sort of spoke about it a bit. Similar with the game jams, I do that for fun. I have an idea, I think, I'll do a game jam, and people can submit stuff, and it's just because it's fun. And if 2 people submit stuff, that's fine. It's still fun. They've tended to be a little bit more successful than that, some more so than others, because some get a bit niche.
Here's the hyper specific niche jam that
I did one recently. There was games to be printed on a cereal box, which was really fun, but just very specific in terms of like layout, and you want it to be vaguely breakfast themed, which is fun, but also difficult to hit sometimes. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff. It's sort of stuff that I've just enjoyed, to be honest. And like, this is stuff I'm doing. I'll share it with other people, and that's cool. But what I found to be effective there is that doing that stuff, but then sharing it with people that I'm sort of in community with already. So you mentioned I got Tiny Tales, which is a Patreon that me and Matthew Morris, who's another creator in the Mouse Ritter space, the Mouse Ritter community, we create some content together there. So Mouse Ritter, if people aren't familiar, it's a RPG it's actually from Australia as well, originally, and it's a fantastic game. It's based on into the odd sort of mechanics, and it's a huge amount of fun. I've introduced a lot of people to it over the years, absolutely love it. But the reason why it's been a big part of my sort of journey with this is that the first content I started creating was in the Mouse Ritter community. Like I joined the community there just because I started playing the game, and I was playing with my kids and my friends, and it was fun. And I started creating stuff, and then that would be interesting 2 people in that specific community. And then as I started doing that, like, it kind of became clear that some of the stuff I'm making is interesting to people outside of the Mouse Ritter community, and other people might be interested. So I thought I'd share it a bit more widely. And then, joining things like the Australian roleplay community. And I lived in New Zealand for a few years before this. I'm in the Kiwi RPG community as well, and some other ones online that I've sort of joined and found people to chat to. And so it's really just been doing stuff that I've enjoyed, but catering towards the community that I'm a part of, and that's been very effective. I guess, like you mentioned, I've got a job and a family and everything outside of this, which is true probably of most people, I assume, to some degree, to varying levels. And I just make stuff that I feel like making, to be honest. I don't have a sort of a plan of like a marketing plan. I'm going to make this and this by these dates to publish this for these people or whatever. It's just there's something I've got an idea, I'll make it, and then it's done. And if people like it, that's cool. So it's very much sort of driven by what I just feel like doing in any given moment. But the way I sort of publish stuff and market stuff, I do tend to focus on, is this interesting to this community? Like the Mouse Ritter community has been especially good for me. I've really enjoyed being part of it. It's one of the most active tabletop game communities that I've seen or been a part of, and it's really, really fun just being in there and getting to know people and stuff. And that's been a huge, huge boost. Same with the Tiny Tales Patreon. It's mostly focused on Mouse Ritter. There's a lot of people in that community we're connecting with there. Yeah, just making stuff that's within that sort of community's niche has been really valuable. So that's been my focus.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's really interesting to hear about how your marketing isn't necessarily strategically led. It's more energy led and based on the communities that you're already a part of. It feels like it's very much, it's organic, it's not pushy. You just connect with other people that you think might enjoy the thing that you're making and that you are excited to make. So
yeah,
that's really cool to hear.
I struggle with sort of traditional marketing. It makes me always feel like I'm pushing things on people, and I don't like that feeling. Even though that is the fine thing to do, there's nothing wrong with it. It just makes me feel a bit weird doing it. Like I've been a community manager for many years as a professionally, and working within communities is sort of how I think about things like this. And I struggle to think of that as marketing, even though it is. So it's an interesting space to be in.
Thank you so much for sharing. Question for the Ravens, Jesse and Brandon. When I personally think of Australian TTRPG businesses who are absolutely killing it on social media, I think of Ravens Ridge Emporium. Some of that might be that I spend a very unhealthy amount of time on TikTok, but I think even putting aside my bias, there is something special that you folks are doing when it comes to social media, especially because you're marketing not just dice and accessories, you're also marketing TTRPGs. You kind of have a very wide array of products that you're marketing. Can you talk a little bit about what you think makes your social media presence shine and some of the lessons you've learned about what content does well and what content doesn't?
We've always sort of tried to make our marketing and our social media presence reflective of like who we are as people, because I think it's very common to see like, you know, these corporations and stuff doing these huge marketing campaigns, and it feels very faceless and cold. And I think everyone has kind of tuned into that. They kind of like, okay, great, another Nike ad that I don't care about. Awesome, I'm not going to engage with this. But it's when you feel like you can actually like get a glimpse into these people's lives, and you feel some kind of personal connection to the marketing or the social media posts, I think it makes it far more engaging for people, and it's more fun for us too, because we're not having to try and like pretend, you know, that we're like making some amazing product that everyone's going to need. We're just like, hey, this is what we're doing. If you like it, you like it. If not, that's okay too. Kind of like what Hugh was saying. So I think like coming from that approach where we want people to see us as people rather than just like some faceless corporation or business or anything like that. We wanted to show that we are people too. And I think showing that glimpse of our lives has kind of been like one of the key things that has allowed people to sort of be like, I like these people because they're, you know, showing off stuff that they enjoy, rather than just like selling products to us, or they're, you know, taking us on their con trip or whatever when they're packing the car and those kinds of things. And I think one of the things that we worked out, thankfully to a couple of friends that have sort of been, you know, doing YouTube and stuff for a bit, is it seems like with the algorithm and everything, it's very easy for folks to sort of get like stuck and pigeonholed into like a type of content, like a format or whatever, you know, like whether it's like, okay, you are doing funny D&D skits, and if you do any other content, it'll never get shown to anybody. We're only ever going to push your D&D skit content. So we kind of early on tried to make our content have like wide appeal and touch on a lot of topics. So, you know, for a while there, we did like GM tips, and then we also did a series where we're highlighting other role-playing games we really liked, and then, you know, we do bits where we're just showing off dice or whatever. But because we've kind of from early on stuck our fingers in a lot of pies, we haven't quite been trapped as hard as some other folks have been, unfortunately, because the algorithm is ruthless and nobody knows what it does. So we're just trying our best to do what we can with it, and make sure that we are free to kind of do the content that we enjoy making, rather than having to conform to what the algorithm tells us is going to work.
Yeah, no pigeonholing the Ravens. The Ravens aren't pigeons. Jesse, do you have anything to add to Brandon's explanation?
I could talk endlessly, so I've always got stuff to add, but I think understanding the societal networks that live within different media platforms, like we noticed a couple of trends work better on different platforms that you can tackle. So TikTok really loved the meet us, come with us, see what we're doing. Here's a day in my life. I'll just drink coffee and you can watch me sand dice. They love that kind of stuff. And I feel like people scroll TikTok to have company almost. Whereas Instagram, they love memes. They are big old silly goofy boys. So if we show ourselves dancing or just being ourselves, they really love to engage with that. So I think it's a bit about understanding who you're trying to talk to and just being yourself, really.
Amazing. It's good to hear that there are, like, I guess, places that content hits differently, and to recognize that, you know, both TikTok and Instagram, although they might have prioritized short form video content, they have different types of content that people prefer on those platforms. Well, now is sort of like the open free-for-all brawl section of the panel, talking about all things marketing. I have a list of topics here that some I've thrown in, some you folks have thrown in. So I thought, let's just go through these topics, and I'd love to get your ideas on them. Now, the first topic I have is, what are some tips for making PDFs more enticing to buyers?
Form fillable, damn it. Top of my lungs. Oh man, there is nothing more frustrating when, especially because I GM a lot online. Sorry, I got so passionate and heated. Also, throughout your discussion of like, when I saw that, like, the first thing I thought it was like a crow with boxing gloves. It was amazing. Anyway, no, there is from very specifically the way that RPGs are played now, right? Like, a lot of people use digital devices, a lot of people play online. Like, I have so many online and international friends, or like friends who are at the other side of the state, and the best we can do is a Discord call, right? And so when I get a system, or I am running a system, or I'm playing something new, there is nothing more frustrating than having a PDF that I have to ask them to fill out or print screen and then write with a mouse, in terms of like the character sheet specifically. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of fellow arty friends who also have access to tablets and stuff like that, so they will do that. But when it comes to making a PDF really enticing, like, aside from readability and clarity and text choice, oh my gosh, font choice is such a big deal. I love Werewolf, but my head, so not clear enough. But it's sort of like, when you have something that you're trying to teach or you're trying to show, and you want it to be like instantly clean and recognizable, it doesn't necessarily have to be minimalist, but form fillable is so important to me.
So that's a feature
Sorry.
you like to see promoted when someone's promoting their PDF, is that it
Oh.
is indeed form fillable, because there's nothing worse than getting
The
to...
number of times, that I have like been talking about cottagecore critters, and I've mentioned the PDFs for the character sheets are form fillable, everyone's like, and then it's like, oh, the player character creation, the player character creation rules are a separate document as well that you can have and just give to your players before session, right? Like, there's like this emotional, like, ooh, you've just made my life easier. Like, I briefly mentioned pain points, but as a GM, one of the biggest pain points is like to introducing someone to a new system is accessibility, for like visually as well as like play wise. So like, at least when I was doing the character sheets for Cottagecore Critters, one of the things that was really important to me was including like quick reference guide, because it's quite simple rules for the game, since it's a D6 dice pool. But having like the quick reference, like having quick reference as something in the PDF, and then having the quick reference guide on the PDF, on, say, I think for the portrait version, it's directly below fears and worries, so like on the left hand bottom corner, because a lot of people are right-handed. But on the landscape version, having that information on the far right, so if a person's got their hand to the side of the page, they can look down and be like, oh yeah, okay, that's what I need to double check. Having that, like, everything very clearly laid out was very important to me, and then having like the form fillability as something. I feel like I made the font a little too small because it looked a lot bigger when I was doing it. So that's something that I'm planning on updating in the future. But that was just for me specifically, like, you will sell me on a game so much faster if you tell me the PDFs are form fillable character sheets. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. Okay.
Amazing. So Scarlett sounds like she's taken a lot of time to think about how people are actually using these, and what some of the pain points are. Any other tips on marketing PDFs and making them more enticing to buyers? Obviously, they're a lot cheaper to produce and to distribute than physical products. So I would love to know if people have additional tips.
I think, like, building on what Scarlett said too, having your metadata for your PDFs, like functioning is super helpful, and having your like table of contents actually sorted out so that people can access the different sections of your PDF using the whatever PDF reader's sidebar they have. I think that also is really helpful, and please hyperlink your table of contents as well, because there's been some PDFs I've had that like you don't have your hyperlinks in your table of contents. I'm like, well, I guess I know what page it's on, but man, it would be so much quicker to just click that and go to the chapter I need. So yeah, I think like making your PDF as accessible as possible with form fillable character sheets, with hyperlinks, with your table of contents structure in there and the metadata. I think that's really important.
Amazing. Hugh, any tips from you?
Yeah. What's interesting is, so in my day job, I'm a product manager, and part of my job is basically user testing things to make sure it works, and then, or, to find issues and use UX things we could improve or whatever. And all of this falls under that, basically. Like, use it yourself, use it in a real world environment, or pretend you're a particular type of user. We would call it a user story in product management. But I'm this type of user. I want to do this. How can I do that if I didn't know what it was and it's coming in new? Go through all of that, and all of the like form fillable is a huge one, definitely. All of this stuff. A couple of things I like to do as well, like on top of all of that, is because a lot of stuff is good. Like I distribute it so people can print it out at home, like easy for home printing. And a lot of the stuff I've done is in like trifolds, which for most of the world we would just use an A4 sheet, but in the US they don't, because they're the US. So most of my stuff is available. If it's an A4 trifold, I've also got a US letter sized trifold, because the fold's all in different places. So if you print an A4 sheet on a US letter and you fold it as a trifold, you're going to have creases through paragraphs and stuff. So that's a really minor thing, but doing that kind of stuff I find really helpful as well if your intention is for people to print it out, which for a trifold usually is, because that's the ideal sort of format. So that's a thing I focus on as well. And just that usability, just like find navigating around it. You mentioned table of contents and hyperlinking those. That's hugely important. Something that came up in something I produced a little while ago was a setting for Mouse Ritter. The whole thing was about, I think it's 70 something pages. And there's like kind of 20 pages of location details, and then 20 pages of a bestiary, and then another bunch of pages of like items and whatever. And someone, I'm sure many people are familiar with Playful Void doing reviews, Nova. They reviewed it, and one of the things they said was the layout was great, but then when you're on like page 50 and it mentions this creature or in this location, now I've got to like sort of go back to the location thing and try and find it in there. So just reference the page number from there. So that's, you're on page 40, this thing, and just put in brackets page 5. And people know to just, they can flip back to page 5. And if it's a PDF, hyperlink it back to that even. And that was like a sort of thing that came up. So then I just updated the product with the page numbers, and I've done that ever since with anything I produce, which is anything that's any length, reference other pages. If you talk about something that's on another page, tell people what page number to go to. It's such a simple thing, but it makes a huge difference to usability and just people navigating your product. So yeah.
That also works for physical
yes.
items as well.
You can't hyperlink the physical thing, but you can tell people where to turn.
I was actually going to tack on to that. Have an index if it's larger than 8 pages for sure, because like having like I was very fortunate to have a friend who came in and basically volunteered into the editing position. I asked them to spell check. I had it was like 167 Google comments on the doc when I went to be like, oh, okay. Can I please call you my editor? They're like, that'd be great. Tanner, shout out. Mwah, adore you. But very specifically, I had this, what game was I running? I was running something very recently. No, I was writing Outgunned, and there is no index in Outgunned. And it hadn't occurred to me at the time just how much I was used to one, because I went to go look for something and there was no index page. And I was so confused, because if you're having a thing with a lot of terminology, even if it's visually stunning and fairly wonderfully laid out, it's a well laid out RPG. I kind of get to tell you, I was like, okay, I need to look up machine gun mechanics. Where is in book book page go burr. Like, I had to go to the contents page. The context page listed weapons, and then it was at like another section and it was annoying as all heck. But like having just an index page is phenomenal. I cannot begin
That's
to
true.
talk about like just that small tidbit enough, especially the moment it starts to get big and you have something mentioned multiple times in multiple areas and like where they take place, and it helps a person quick ref, especially a GM halfway through session if they've got a book. That one's really important too.
Amazing. All right, pivoting from PDFs and navigability. Yep, that's the word. We'll run with that. Talking about platforms, we've talked a little bit about different platforms that you folks leverage in terms of marketing, but let's expand on that. What platforms have you found to be really good in terms of like marketing your business, products, finding community?
I'm not great with social media. I post stuff on Blue Sky and Mastodon and things, but it's not. I don't do it in any sort of dedicated way, and I don't know how. I don't think I do it particularly well, so I can't really speak to that. But in terms of distribution platforms and ways for people to get stuff, the two big ones for digital stuff obviously is itch.io and DriveThruRPG. Both have their benefits and problems. But the two main ones I publish on, and they work really well. I said I started in the Mouse Ritter community publishing stuff. Like Itch is the main platform where Mouse Ritter stuff is available. There's some stuff on DriveThru, but it's mostly on Itch. So that's been really helpful for me. Depending on what game you're working with, DriveThru is often a better thing. Like if you're doing D&D stuff, then DriveThru is generally a better place for you.
Yeah, there's some native marketing that you'll get from those
exactly.
platforms for those systems.
Which is great. More recently, I've focused on my own website at 10acregames.com and putting it. All my stuff's on Itch and DriveThru and there, so I've got like kind of 3 platforms to upload stuff when I put new stuff up, which is fine. I don't mind. And one huge benefit I found is I do a lot of for my physical books, all of them available print on demand. I've never done like a formal print run. It's all print on demand. And I used to use DriveThruRPG, and I switched to Lulu since then because I really like the kind of global distribution is much better. The quality I find is a little bit better. And they've got a service called Lulu Direct. You can link to your actual website, so you can place an order on my site and automatically goes to Lulu for printing, which is great. So I really like that kind of thing. I find that really helpful. I have a tech background, so I find it easy to set up that kind of stuff. So Itch and DriveThru, and then sort of my own platform for distribution. For like marketing, social media I guess is the best place. I'm just really bad at it. So, I think it sounds like Jesse and Brandon can talk about it.
Because I see you frequently posting in, say, the Arc Discord under promotion, and I would call that social media marketing.
Yeah, I suppose. I define frequently. It's been a while since I posted in there.
Well, I notice it.
Okay, fair enough.
It feels frequent to me.
Stop spamming.
That's fair. Yeah, it's been a while. I've been busy with day job stuff. I haven't been able to produce stuff in a little while, which is fine. But yeah, I guess like I said before, so that sort of active marketing isn't a strength of mine at all. It's almost sort of like you said, energy focus, where my energy is at the time, and sort of that kind of thing more for me. It sounds like Jesse and Brandon could talk a lot more about social media stuff than I could. So yeah.
Absolutely. Opening up to the floor. Does anyone want to talk about perhaps social media specifically?
I'm with you. Most of my stuff's Discord, and then connecting through people with I suppose creator communities. Like I know a lot of people who stream quite regularly on Twitch. I know, and like I used to stream, and I know people who, and I do actual plays with people, or I did at some point, and people are doing it with cottagecore critters, which is still weirding me out. But like for me, a lot of the social media I'm so bad at it, but a lot of the social media ends up being connecting through Discords, specifically because, again, if we're going back to that original point, community is massive and a huge driving force. And a lot of the connections I've made have either been through Arc or Conquest, especially, and as well as for me, Telegram and like the Melbourne Fur community is also a massive connecting point for me because everyone just wants to be a little guy, and honestly I feel it. So to my fellow furs, thank you again for making the first print run completely sell out at its first con. So thank you. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna need to poke you, Hugh, later about print on demand, because especially with the current tariff stuff, like I'm super keen on like local production. Like all of my stuff's produced in Australia, and I'm like, oh man, okay, I need to ask about that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's
I'm
me on social
happy to chat
media
about print on demand stuff.
specifically.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Happy to chat about that later.
Jesse and Brandon, you mentioned specifically before TikTok and Instagram. Are those your two primary marketing platforms, or do you use other platforms as well?
Yeah, I would say Instagram and TikTok are our main ones. I'm a bit of a social media bunny. I'm always online. I wanted to be a YouTuber growing up. I've done a degree in film and television, so that's kind of my forte of like online presence. I tried YouTube. There's a lot of angry people on YouTube. I got off YouTube.
Yeah.
And we do a little bit of marketing on Facebook, which is interesting. It's a lot of old people. So I think Instagram and TikTok are kind of like where we reach our target audience of people, nerds just like us. Um, yeah. And I guess Brandon does the Discord. I'm an old lady. Discord? No idea. I can figure everything else out, but the channels confuse me. So Brandon does a few other things like Blue Sky and Discord.
Amazing. And I know that you do a mixture of both native and paid marketing on at least Instagram and Facebook. I don't know about TikTok. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have like a relatively ongoing like meta marketing campaign that we kind of just have going in the background most of the time. And we first started doing it when we were leading up for a Kickstarter, because we were like, well, we want to try and get some traffic to the page and make it as successful as possible. So we just put like a small little budget aside and we'll just see how it goes, sort of thing. And it did better than we thought it was going to do. And that sort of spurred us to think, well, okay, maybe we should try doing this and maybe a little bit more of a serious capacity and actually like look into how to set these things up properly, because it was a very slapdash kind of marketing campaign for the crowdfunding campaigns, because we were just like not really knowing what we were doing. But since then we've sort of grown. There's 4 Ravens now, and one of them, she's a marketing person in her day job, so she just does like meta ad campaigns as her day job. Kari is her name, and she does fantastic work with all the ads, and she just like knows how to set up all of the campaigns and all that kind of stuff that I'm kind of a bit daunted to look into, because meta is a very confusing platform when you're looking at the back end side of things. It's just it's not a very easy to navigate system for a user. So but we have found good success with that. So we try and have like an ongoing marketing campaign for whatever our most active role-playing game we've published is, and that's been going really well. So like I think particularly as well for crowdfunding, meta is like the place to do paid advertising. We've tried on Reddit, we've tried on Google, we've even tried on Pinterest, and all of those are like markedly worse than the meta advertising that we've done. So I think like for any of our crowdfunding going forward, we'll definitely run like a meta marketing campaign leading up to it, because it just seems to have pretty good results.
Yeah, that's really good to know, and good to see that you've tried other things and have definitely found what works for you and for your crowdfunding. Amazing. So pivoting from that, I would love to know, and I think these two things probably feed into each other. How do you create a brand identity, and you all have very different brand identities from one another? And how do you create things that people actually want?
I think so you go.
No. Have at.
Thank you. I think it's really important to make something not exactly for yourself, but I think don't make something where you're trying to specifically target someone or some audience with some game. Don't be like, oh, okay, like Marvel superheroes are hot right now, let's make a superhero game. I think instead just make a game you want to make, and then the people will come, because they'll see the genuine like love that you've put into the thing you've created. And I think that speaks far more volumes than like jumping onto trends and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you make something that you like and you're proud of, that's how you make a game that people will like.
Yeah, I'll jump on that. So I used to do there was a period of time when I lived overseas, but before that, I was a big part of the convention circuit. So I used to sell art, stickers, the convention person. It's such a different scape now. Oh my gosh, everyone's so professional. It's terrifying. But one of the things that for me at that point was very frustrating is we were, again, it all kind of leads back to community, but I had a friend of mine who did fan art of a series they weren't a fan of. And they gave a person powers. They were like, "Oh yes, they're yellow coded. That means that they have lightning powers." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Their theme songs I burn. What are you doing?" And I found out that they hadn't even bothered to engage it with it at all, and that felt like such a false lie to me. Right, like and going on like the thing of like making something that you want to see in the world, right, and like leading forward with passion and stuff like that, especially for something that is as emotionally involved as RPGs can be. Having that authenticity is a massive part of it for me, at least. At the time of making Cottagecore Critters, I wanted a break from high stakes epic fantasy. I have ran a lot of horror in contrast to like all of the other stuff. But and like I run a lot of very dramatic moments, and I have a lot of really dramatic tables. And this is amazing, by the way. This is not a critique on that, but I could feel myself getting emotionally burnt out on these high stakes stories, and just that desire for me specifically for very warm kind of like highlighting the humble story that is still important, and navigating it with skills and abilities that specifically I deem quite important. Like there's no combat in Cottagecore Critters, for example, because it's not a combat game. And a lot of it was like is social navigation and emotional navigation, and for me that was really important. And I think that one of the mass appeals of it for it to at least the current audience that it seems to have garnered, which I'm still very appreciative, beyond belief. Oh my goodness, is that like I think it appeals for two reasons, and it's everyone does want a break. Like I have had bundled people going like, "Oh, this is a nice change from like stabbing the local lich," right? Like I think I had that comment the other day, and then somebody was like, "Oh, this was refreshing. Like this was a moment of calm for me," and for me, it's very important to facilitate that sort of calm and peace for people, because heavens knows I could use it. And like I also at the time was like there are systems out there that I really enjoy that just didn't have that same sort of crunch level is also a thing, versus RP level, that at least I was exploring with my tables, and this making a system that sort of hit that like pocket for me was important. And I think that's why coming out to it feels familiar, but it feels fresh, and that's a really good position to be in, because it means that people want to adopt it, but it also means that people feel like they can play with it, and that is the whole point of an RPG, right? Like you want them to play the game.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that from both the Ravens and from you, Scarlett, that you're building things that you enjoy, that you're genuinely excited about, and then if it finds its community and it takes flight from there, amazing. Not everything is going to land the same way, I guess. So I would love to hear a little bit more about maybe some of the failures that folks have experienced. What things flopped and you're expecting them to take off? Was there anything in anyone's repertoire that they were surprised about?
It's the way you phrase that as being surprised about it is interesting, because for me, like, some of my stuff hasn't taken off, and that's fine. But I'm not like surprised by it. It's more just because, not because like I've made something known it's bad, but not that at all. It's more just like I'm more surprised when people like my stuff and enjoy it and want to get it and want to use it and stuff. Like for me, it's like, oh, that's cool. That's nice of you. You're so kind. It's like you're so kind to like it. which is strange because otherwise why would I put out there? But that's sort of what it feels like. So like I'm more surprised on the other side. So in like I've got stuff that I've published that very few people have downloaded, and that's fine. I'm fine with it. It doesn't surprise me, but it's not like a shocking thing or anything like that. I mean, and similar to what everyone was saying just now, I started making stuff just to play stuff with my kids. Like I was playing Mouse Rotor with them, introduced them to that. They were age 6 and 9 at the time, and we started playing. And there's a bunch of third-party content available, and I was using some of that. Then I was like, I could make something that is more specific. Like I said, we were living in New Zealand, so I started making these adventures, mouse-sized adventures that take place on a New Zealand farm, and that was fun. And then suddenly I'd done a bunch of that, and then it was like a whole setting. And I've got like a setting as a farm with 10 adventures, and I published it, and people like it. So it just sort of started off as a thing I was doing with my kids, and it was fun. And other people actually quite liked it afterwards, which was nice. But if they didn't, that's fine too, because I will have fun with it anyway.
I think there's a really good lesson around expectations and being gentle with yourself. There's maybe some people who are new to creating things for other people might not be accustomed to. Maybe they only see people's successes and don't realize how many things just sit there quietly in the background and don't get downloaded as much. So thank you so much for sharing that, Hugh. I think there's a really important lesson in that. Now I want to turn my attention to brand identity. You've got differing brands. I'd say that there's some overlap between Scarlett and Hugh's in terms of like cute coziness in like the kind of iconography, I guess, you have in your brand. But talk to me about how you came and settled upon your varying brand identities.
I feel like on my end, it's a weird dichotomy, right? Like one of the things I'm best known for is my horror. And then this is why she my background. I like to joke that I'm a werewolf because it's but I feel like identity is very fascinating in terms of like when it comes to branding, right? Because when it comes to like games and production of games, I personally don't really want to be pigeonholed into like a specific thing, but I do want to focus my efforts into any future endeavors in like a place that I feel like I want to explore more, right? Like specifically for me, it's cozy. There's a game I'm hoping to get out by 2027 that it looks more about the more elemental and spiritual aspect of like adventuring, which like Pokemon Ranger or Kami inspired, because those are the things I love. But specifically when it comes to brand identity, I think like the reason this is so strong is because this is me as I like to present myself and what I enjoy like in the world, right? Like I really enjoy like creepy cool like heckin' monstery things. Hell yeah, it's got a lot of teeth. That's super fun. But I think I'm coming from maybe a Steve Irwin aspect, right? Like it's like, oh, this beauty right here, right? Like the horror and this and all of the creepy stuff is still cool. Like I don't want to deny that myself that, but I suppose like developing a brand identity is specifically, especially in the modern day of marketing, where so much is like personification. Like we were talking about how empty and how like big brands feel like really like, oh, it's the who is this for, right? Because the thing is, if your target market is everyone, and you can't please everyone, then your target market is for what you think everyone is. And I think brand identity is like really linked in that way to like, who do you want to present yourself as? And like usually with that identity, it'll come out forward. Like I know that there are worksheets and stuff like that goes discover your brand identity. But like a lot of that is what is appealing, what makes you, or what makes your product, right? And at least in small business sense, it is the person who makes it usually. And I think that I find that I'm really attracted to brand identities that kind of show that respect to both the creator as well as like the work, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm starting to go ramble. Somebody save me.
No, that's really good to hear about the the way in which you personally fit into this, and it's very much a personal brand for you. I would love to hear the brand story of Ravens Ridge Emporium. Where did that start, and how have you found upon expansion? Does that brand still hold? Are you attracting certain kinds of people to the brand? Talk about Ravens Ridge Emporium as a brand for me.
Oh, this is a really fun story. When we first came around to starting our little business, we based it around a Dungeons and Dragons campaign we had going that we were madly in love with. It was in the city of Ravensridge. It was gothic Victorian, gloomy, dark, a little bit spooky. But us as people, this is the only black shirt I own. I am yellow and sunshine and flowers in my house at all times. So when we go to conventions, we dress up as Ravensridge characters, which are dark, gloomy, spooky. So if anyone sees me outside of a convention, I'm usually in some kind of yellow dress. They're like, "Whoa, what is happening?" And I'm like, "That's actually my brand identity. I'm not quite like that." So it's almost a space that I get to play in and cosplay and personify a different part of myself. Um, but our brand was born through Ravensridge, and it's so intrinsically linked with Dungeons and Dragons, which is fun.
I think it's been really interesting having a couple of extra people jump on board, because it's been Jesse and I for like 5 years beforehand, running it. And the two that joined is Kari and Nicholas. They live down in Tasmania, and Nicholas is like my best friend. I've been best friends with him since I was probably like 6 years old or something. And we've always made games together, like video games or just like little board games and stuff. And we've always said when we were younger, like, oh, we'll start a business together and all that sort of thing. And so it's been really, really beautiful to like be able to actually like join forces and him come on board and actualize that like childhood claim that we had when we were younger. And like Nicholas and Kari are both just wonderful people, and they're into the same stuff we're into. We play online games with them like every week, and so it's really been kind of like smooth, and it doesn't seem to have like affected the way we present or anything like that. I think if anything, it just means that we're going to have to try and start getting them to show their face a bit more in our content, because I think most people, when they're like, oh, there's 4 Ravens, I thought it was just you and Jesse. We have to be like, well, yeah, we've got some Tasmanians too. But yeah, but they're a little camera shy and stuff, so I think we're going to slowly work up to sort of encouraging them to be a bit more present in our social presence.
Just get them to wear the plague doctor masks. It's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
That would be honestly sick, though. Like, it's like, instead of like the anon censor bar or something when you're like trying to hide identities, it's just turns around. Hello. It's so good.
Which of these 3 plague doctors is the real Brandon?
That would be good. That would be good, though, actually. That's got replayability.
Look, you can have them for free. Amazing. That's really awesome to hear. And what about you, Hugh? How did you come up with 10 Acre Games as the branding for the type of content that you make and sort of...
Yeah, it's something I've always said from the start, is that that's like family-friendly stuff, because my first playtesters have always been my kids, which is a bit of fun. I haven't actually played everything with my kids that I've published, just because of timing-wise and stuff, but I could theoretically do it and it would be great. So that family-friendly focus is a big part of it for me. The name actually came from the first 2 big projects I produced. One was called Kiwi Acres, which was a mouse ritter setting. The other one was another mouse ritter setting, more like a campaign focus, called 10 Downing, which is in the 10 Downing Street, the British Prime Minister's house, but as mice. I got the blueprints for 10 Downing are available online, open license, and use the actual blueprints for 10 Downing, the house, as the map. It's pretty cool. So 10 Downing and Kiwi Acres, and I made 10 Acre Games. That's sort of where the name came from. And I just wanted to sort of feel happy and friendly and that kind of thing. I don't really go in for dark fantasy stuff too much. It's never really something that's been hugely interesting to me. I played some D&D. I played some D&D with my kids, but they didn't enjoy it as much as other stuff we've done. It's just a bit more crunchy, I think. I think I glossed over some of the rules even, and even then it was still a lot for them. Because to be honest, I think I forgot some of the combat mechanics while we were playing. And
Legit.
yeah. and yeah, so I've kind of focused on that sort of family friendly aspect. That's been a big part of it for me, and just everything's kind of light and easy, and that's something I like to do.
What was
Most
the
of the stuff I
decision
produce.
behind? Oh, I was going to say, what
No,
was
no,
the
go for
decision
it.
behind choosing 10 Acre Games over publishing under your own name?
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was interesting. I always just did it as myself at first because that's the easiest. And I feel like I got to a point where I'm like, I'd like a brand behind this. I feel like it'll have a bit more weight. Even though I'm in that annoying space where it's just me. So when I'm like posting stuff on social media, I'm like, oh, this is our new game. It's like it's not our new game. It's just me. It's my new game. But it's like I post as if I'm a plural, which I'm not. It's like so I'm in that sort of weird marketing space where I I'm never quite sure which sort of language I should use there, because it is just me, just with another brand name on top. And I think I decided to do that to make it feel a bit more weighty, I suppose. So it's not just a guy making stuff. There's actually like a brand behind this.
Mm.
And also just because I wanted to, I recently registered 10 Acre Games as a trademark because I could.
Heck yeah, you did.
It's the first time I've ever done that. So I've got a trademark I own, which is fun. It was very easy to do. It's not even a difficult process. It just took like 6 months of them to approve it. But which is just waiting. That was fun, but it doesn't really mean anything in practice. It was just like a fun extra thing.
It means your trademark.
Sort of, yeah. I
It
suppose it does.
literally means you're trademarked. So that's what you did.
Yeah, and that's fun, But yeah, I think I felt like it would give my products a bit more weight behind it if it was a brand rather than a person. I don't know if that actually makes any impact to anyone in practice, but for me, it feels like more solid that way. Like if I ever want to publish alongside someone else in the future, there's like a brand doing it rather than just some guy. And that means I feel like that
Yeah,
means something more,
for
but
sure.
maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just a mental model, I suppose. But that's
Who
If I
knows?
could
Scarlett.
add in, actually, on that weight and professionalism, as of yesterday, I can say that I'm the happy owner of the business name Flowerfield Press,
nice.
which is like which will hopefully be, because again, I was talking about pigeonholing before, but I really there's a lot of stuff that I want to write for, say, systems. For example, there's like instead of my own thing, it's like a supplemental or like an adventure under a system that I really enjoy, and I wanted to be able to do that for any system I wanted to enjoy. And then Flowerfield Press will be all of the stuff that is produced like as its own original thing. But like with on like jumping on what he was saying about like weight and like a kind of a name, right? Like it sounds so like it sounds so like ancient language and magics. But like having just a brand name where it's like this is an entity that kind of exists as not like a faceless conglomerate, but like as a thing. It helps, I think, one, separate yourself emotionally from your work. So if something else happens, like Scarlett's not my real name, shock and horror. It's the name I've had since I was 13 on DeviantArt. But it means that like the work that I do under Scarlet Song is like, yes, it's me, but it's also like it's Scarlet Song, right? But in the same way, like Flowerfield Press will be the work of that is the pressed flowers that are the stories that end up coming out of that sort of stuff. But I think having that also separation a little bit when it comes to brand identity helps a lot, because it can be like in the modern day, it can be really mental health downhill fast if somebody starts targeting the individual, and we see it all the time with people who their entire identity is them, right? And more specifically the performative aspect. And I think that like having that brand identity is, while being distinct, even if it is really personal to you, having that safety there is also really good, like everyone knows it's you, but it stops the imposter syndrome, I think, a little bit, or maybe it kickstarts it, actually, either or.
Well, what I'm thinking of is like instead of having like bleed in a TTRPG, you might have bleed in the business, and this kind of is like a little bit of a way to have like just a little bit of a protective mechanism. And I think Brandon and Jesse were talking before about how the Ravens are characters that they get to play, and so that's sort of like a fun space to play in, but it's not where they are all of the time. And I think that sort of goes to what you were talking about there,
For sure.
Scarlett. I have another question. What is your best-selling product, and why do you think that is?
I have one. It's Cottagecore Critters. That and what I do for a living, right? And I think in both cases, it's people like being cozy and people like being empathized with. And at least in a professional game master capacity, which is the other thing that I do, I think that I come in with a lot of empathy and like a lot of like bouncing off a person because I like people. And I think that appeals, hopefully, to a bundle of folk that they like being listened to. I don't know. But
A connection in this day and age? Scarlett, what are you talking about?
I know. I think especially the Cottagecore Critters, I think, has performed as well as it has. Like we've, as of Conquest actually market on the weekend, we've gone over 120 books, which is wild to me. From when like doing an initial, I hope that 30 people will buy this physical book. Right.
I need to cover store costs too. Oh wow, I'm actually making a profit.
Yeah, like I wanted the physical copy for me, my dude. Like I'm just happy other people really want it. But like I think half the reason it's probably so appealing. A lot of people have said it's the art, which I'm also very grateful for since I'm the one that does it. But like I think a lot of reason it's been so successful, I honestly think, is because it feels fresh in the current space, in terms of like at least when I went to Conquest last year, I GM'd Girl by Moonlight and Candela Obscura, and there was no cozy game at Conquest being run for people, and that broke my heart because I wanted to play more cozy games. But by the this year there was Iron Valley, which is like a Stardew Valley style game, which is like super exciting, that like people want to play more of these things, and they tend to fill up fast as well. So I think that there is like an avenue in this space for a lot more comfort and cozy, against the epic horrors of the world, you know.
Amazing, great to hear, and congratulations on your success since Conquest Market, which was like a few days ago.
Yes.
As of recording this, it was literally a few days ago. Holy heck,
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
Hugh, what's your best-selling product, and why do you think that is?
My best-selling product, my most downloaded stuff is obviously things that are free because, of course. But my best-selling product is it's actually the first big thing I produced, which is Kiwi Acres. It's a setting for Mouse Ritter on set on a New Zealand farm, like a 19 hex map and 10 scripted, not scripted, 10 like full adventures that are just ready to play. People can jump in and play. And I think one of the reasons why it was timing was good there. That at the time that I produced it, there was like 2 other similar packages for Mouse Ritter available. One was like an official one from Mouse Ritter creator. It was called The Estate. And there was another third-party one. And then there was Kiwi Acres. So if you wanted like a sort of big full adventure collection for it, and you want to just play a whole bunch of stuff that was just ready to play and easy to jump into, those are like the only options. There's a lot more options now, which is fantastic because the third-party community is huge with Mouse Ritter. So at the time, I was in a really good space because there was very few options. Not to say that people were forced to use it because there are very few options, but in more that like it got a lot of play that way, which I think really helped. And people found it really interesting and stuff. And that's been definitely my best-selling thing. It was also, I mean, not to say that I haven't put passion into all my other stuff, because everything I build is out of like a passion for doing it. But I put a huge amount of love and work and passion into Kiwi Acres. It was like a huge passion project for me. I mean, all my stuff pretty much is because it's a hobby, really. But that was a huge one for me because that's just how I built it. And I think that shows in the finished product. And yeah, I think there's a couple of those reasons. So sort of circumstantial in the Mouse Ritter community, but also just the way I built it, I think was really just kind of made it a cool thing. I'm something I'm really proud of it. So
Amazing.
you are.
and it's that's definitely been my best selling thing.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's some similarity with, in terms of just luck and timing with the Scarlet
It's
and
definitely a big part of
Conicorch
it,
Critters, and you were just lucky to fill in that gap at that time with with that particular adventure, Hugh as well. Fantastic. What about the Ravens? Now, you've also got like products as well as TTRPGs. Which has been your best-selling product, and why do you think that is?
I think our best-selling game has been Cartograph, which is a map-making solo or GM-less role-playing game, and I think a lot of its success was also due to timing, just kind of like a serendipitous thing where like the collective TTRPG hive mind was kind of wanting this particular thing filled, which seems to be true for all of us. But in Cartograph's case, I released the first edition of Cartograph on the tail end of the COVID lockdowns. And so I think that was when solo role-playing games were hitting a really big boom because, people were isolated from their like in-play groups or, everyone was just feeling a little isolated. And so like having a way to, engage with TTRPGs, if you weren't someone that was super into playing online or whatever, solo became a big option for you. And so I think Cartograph kind of serendipitously came out at a good time where people were looking for that kind of game. So that has been a good seller for us. And I think we also, once we realized people liked it, we sort of made sure to contact with like other creators and stuff and see if they wanted to do a playthrough. And we hit like a lot of like reviewers and stuff hard, which helped a lot. And then I think, what do you think would be our like bestseller that is not a TTRPG? Probably like the Dice Glasses chains, right?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a call at the moment for accessories where people can say, "Hey, I'm a cute little D&D nerd. Look at these kind of dice accessories I have on." And our little glasses chain have D10s on them and they're pretty and it kind of fills that mark of like, "Hey stranger, do you like D&D? Because I do, obviously."
Can you see from this thing I have right here?
And probably work appropriate in most contexts as well. Not all graphic tees are work appropriate. So yeah, it's really cool to hear that these cute little TTRPG accessories are doing really well. Now, to wrap up this panel, I want to invite all of you to give our audience something actionable that they can do to make marketing their TTRPG stuff better. So I'd love to go around, share what your top tip is for better TTRPG marketing, and I'm going to start with Scarlett.
Man, the buses just keep coming. Let's see. I feel like my biggest marketing tip when it comes to at least in-person marketing is the person that you are talking to is a person, not just a customer. They, especially in our communities where RPGs, like it's small enough and niche enough that everyone kind of knows each other, right? And they're people first. I would love for everyone to pick up a copy of Cottagecore Critters. I would love everyone to play it, but that not everyone's going to want it and not everyone will find that appealing. And that's great, honestly. It means that there's a diverse like thought space just everywhere around. So if I could to give any in-person marketing tip, you're inviting someone when you're making an RPG into your world. Make sure that world feels concrete and physical and alive and presentable, right? For me, I have a lot of like character cutouts of things within the space of Falling Leaf, which is the accompanying setting. That was the example setting for the book. And I think having all of those little bits and bobs made people feel like they were entering something, as well as like able to engage with it without talking to me directly as well, right? Everyone's a little bit shy. They're also got big feelings, and especially in the modern era where things are, oh boy, expensive. Your thing or your product, and if we're thinking of them as product or your work, if people aren't buying it, doesn't necessarily mean that you've done something wrong and there's something inherently wrong with you. It just might mean that it doesn't appeal to them, and that's totally fine. It's because the customer is a person ultimately, right? And that's my big tip. Like, also just be nice. It's not hard.
Wonderful. Hugh, what's your one actionable thing to help people do better TTRPG marketing?
I think be nice. That's all you have to do. Just be nice. No, I think there's kind of two things, but they're connected. Is that and I've spoken about this already. Is that find a community that you're interested in, and not just because you want to sell them your stuff, but because you're actually interested in it yourself. And I've mentioned the Mouse Reader community a few times, but it's because I just got involved in it because I was interested in it and I played the game. And then it ended up being the best source of marketing for me when I was first doing stuff, and it still is. But it's because it's something I've been passionate about, and I'm personally passionate about it, even regardless of anything I'm selling. And then, so find that community that you are interested and passionate about, or you're passionate about the thing that the community is about. And then, it kind of grows more organically from there, I suppose. So instead of sort of joining a community just so you can market stuff to them, people can sniff that out pretty quickly. It's pretty obvious when people do that kind of thing. And it's fine to go to a place to advertise your thing if it's relevant to those people. There's nothing wrong with that. But that sort of faux, like fake engagement, just so you can market stuff, is very obvious, especially if it's an active community. So and that's not a short-term thing. It's not like you can just jump in a place and you're part of it. It takes a while to build up a sort of sense of community there. So, but find that space that's something that you're personally passionate about that you can engage in, and then they'll sort of organically become a natural source of marketing for you, to the point that it might not even feel like marketing. Like with me, it doesn't really feel like that. It's just because that's what I'm doing anyway. Yeah.
Amazing. So
that's
we've
it.
got be a nice, authentic, empathetic person. We've got join and be engaged authentically in a community. Jesse and Brandon, what top tip do you have? Or top tips? You can have a couple each. I'll allow it.
Excellent. I think my biggest one is that because we're such a big supporter of small businesses ourselves, I know what it's like to be a customer. So I'm going to tackle this from a customer point of view of I'm a bit of an avid reader and I love buying indie author books at like Supernova. One of my favorite books is by some random author that was like, I really love my book. Will you really love it too? And I love the way she marketed to me because she was like, you look like you're into fantasy. I'm like, oh, do I? And we just had like the most beautiful discussion about her world building, what her book's about, and you could see on her face so much joy about her project. Whereas I went to another author and they looked kind of dead inside. And I was like, what is this about? They ignored me. And when they finally answered, they were like, oh, it's just like a romance. And I'm like, cool, now I don't want to buy it. So
Yeah.
I think like
What
a
the
way that you
heck?
can market to your community is love what you do, guys. You're not here to make money. You're here to spread joy and be in that joy.
Awesome. Brandon, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Oh, that was such a good one. How do I follow that? I don't know. I think like it's kind of a summary of like what has been spoken about by everybody else. But I think just being genuine when you're presenting online or when you're talking to people in person, in any capacity, your presence online and in the marketing efforts you do, if you do it with from a genuine place, people will see that. So when you're going into a community that you're getting enmeshed in and you're genuinely there for it, like the Mouse Reader community with Hugh, like that obviously shows. And I think that's always going to be more effective. Or like when you're in person, Scarlett, and you're talking to people and you're genuinely trying to bring them into this world, they'll be able to see that. So I think
It
be
sounds like
genuine.
that would work on Jesse 100%. Like,
I think so.
You want to play? Let me know if you ever want to play, genuinely.
Fantastic. All right. Well, it sounds like we've covered a whole heap of stuff. It has been, I've kept you confined to this call long enough, and I would like to release you back onto the world to wreak havoc and creativity wherever you may. But before you go, where can people find out more about each of you and what you do? I'll start with you, Scarlett. Where can people find more about Scarlett Song?
Got the whole convoy, everyone. That's great. As for actually, don't worry. This has been great. So where you can find me most prolifically on like social media wise, Blue Sky is my poison of choice. I am occasionally on Instagram when I remember it exists and I haven't uninstalled it because I've been on Reels for 3 hours in bed when I shouldn't have been. Other than that, you can definitely find me via most Discords. I am on Start Playing Games at Scarlet Song as well, where I've got upcoming campaigns starting in October, which are really exciting. One of them's Werewolf, the other one's Daggerheart Drylands. As for the book itself and game dev work, you can find game dev over on my Ko-fi, where I'm talking about the expansion coming out next year called Seasons of Stories, which adds weather spirits as well as foraging, festivals, and farming, which I'm really excited about too. And then, oh my gosh, why is there so many places? Yeah, I'm for hire. If you're in the Melbourne area, online and in person, you can go to scarletsong.com.au for that one.
Excellent, thank you, Scarlett. Hugh, where can people find out more about you and what you do?
In terms of gaming stuff, 10acregames.com is probably the best place. All my stuff's there. I'm on Blue Sky and Mastodon as myself and the brand as separate accounts, which is still like I struggle to manage all of that, but I don't post as often as I should. But if you at me on those, I'll reply because I do see it all. I'm vaguely still on Twitter, but I don't think I've ever actually actively used it in months and months and months. But I still have a thing there. Also, the Patreon community that I co-run with my co-creator Matthew Morris is tinytales.community. It's a discourse forum, discourse, not Discord, which is actually the company I work for. And it's a Patreon, so we actually produce weekly content now. We've committed to a weekly schedule going forward, and there's some pretty cool stuff on there. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, 10acregames.com, tinytales.community, and then just search for me on the social things. I'm not on Instagram or Facebook. I just don't have the temperament for it. Mastodon, Blue Sky, and my website. Yeah.
Wonderful. And where can we find Ravens Ridge Emporium?
Okay, if you want to follow us on socials, you can look up the Ravens Ridge Emporium. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, YouTube. Are we anywhere else? We're also a little bit on Mastodon, but I always forget. That's the one I forget exists. But it is good. I do like Mastodon. If we have a Discord as well, if you want to keep up to date with our projects, you can join our Discord. You'll find out all about the games we've got coming up, such as 1000 Rats Devour a City, which is our new project in the works.
Heck yeah.
Which does what
Sounds
it says
cool.
on the tin. Thank you.
I love rats.
Yeah, who doesn't, right? So you can join our Discord if you want to play some games of Cartograph, some other folks there. We also have a mailing list if you want to be more directly up to date with what we're doing. But check out our Instagram. That's probably the most active place we're at.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for joining me for this panel. I learned a lot, and I hope our audience learned a lot too. And I'm sure you'll get some questions and some new followers across the various spaces where you all are. Well, thank you once again for being my guests, and we will chat at some point in the near future.
Thank you. It's been great.
Stevie.
Thank you.